Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I'm Brittany Tulsa King, and I'm glad you're here for this one because it's going to be intense. And the conversation I'll be watching, actually, we'll be watching together, is between a former Klansman and his former probation officer who happens to be Black. Yes, that's exactly what I just said. It gets better. During the time that she was his probation officer, he was still a Klansman. So he wasn't a former anything yet. I was not expecting to cry this much. And I actually saw this conversation a couple months ago. And I found it on the I Am Second platform. And this is a channel on YouTube that uplifts and showcases celebrities and non-celebrities and their encounters with God and how that encounter has transformed their lives. And it came at the right time, like a specific time that I needed to see and gain like some optimism and humanity, basically. And I'm so glad that I saw this and I want to share with you guys. But before we get into it, be sure to press that subscribe button, also comment and share it. Share this video if you feel so compelled to do. And I want to see the conversations you guys are having, what you're thinking throughout this video. I'm really interested in your thoughts. All right, with that said, let's watch.
I was 12 years old. I finally got me a Black friend. No animosity, nothing. We were thick as thieves. We got along great. He invited me over to his house. His mom says, I don't want that blue-eyed devil in my house. He was never allowed to hang out with me, never allowed to talk to me. My first encounter with racism was that day when I got discriminated against. And it's like, why? So from that day forward, you guys ain't liking me, accepting me, no matter what. I said, it's over. By the age of 15, I'm cooking methamphetamine, and I started getting very, very active with a lot of neo-Nazis. Started getting involved with higher-ups, started rallies, started handing out pamphlets, going to state capitol, doing all that stuff. But I've hurt a lot of people. I've hurt a lot of kids when I was kids. Like I said, I didn't hurt kids when I was an adult. I hurt these kids and I had their parents coming after me. They're protecting their kids. They're doing what any of us would do to protect our kids. I cried like a little baby the day my son was born. Because I know if anybody ever hurt my kid, I'd kill him. And for these people I freaking hurt and I destroyed their lives. They were just trying to protect their kid. That's when I knew I had to walk away. I had to walk away. I couldn't do it no more.
This is very interesting and something to be said about human nature. This is typically what happens with us as humans. We can do something harmful or vindictive to somebody else and not think twice about it until it happens to us. And then when it does happen to us, then that's when we understand the impact of our actions. We feel the guilt, we feel the pain, and life hits us when it needs to hit us. And I just find it very interesting. No matter what you do, you can feel so numb to what your actions are until it happens to you. And then you not only feel the pain of that happening, but you feel the pain of, oh my gosh, and I did this to someone else. So very interesting in those things.
I think when it all started with us, besides the being on the parolee or probationee and probation officer thing, that got me was the first time she came to my house, because she shows up, flashlight on her car, everything. It's like, who the heck is this? gained a lot of respect for her because I've never had, not even my own race, not even my own people come to my house by themselves. She showed up that day and it opened my eyes that she had some courage.
I had an idea of who he was by looking at him on paper. Saw the tattoos and the file. And my gut that day wasn't saying, don't go there by yourself. I listened to my gut. If I ever get that feeling, that intuition, I just say, you know, I'm not gonna go there today. But that day was, okay, yeah, it was nighttime. And I looked around, nothing looked sketchy. And you see how I'm dressed when I go out in the field. I look like a SWAT team member.
I know that all too well.
And when he made that contact with me, he said, you're by yourself? Then I was kind of like the hair on my neck stood up and I was like, had my hand on my gun. It's like, yes, I'm by myself. You know, is there any problems? And he was like, I have respect for you. No one's ever come to my house by themselves. They've always come in twos. And then just from there, he's been compliant with me. I've had to talk to him about some issues. You know, hey, I need you to do this or do that. But he turned it around. I never once thought about violating his probation because he was doing what I asked him to do. He always worked. He made payments towards his probation fines and fees.
First of all, I love the fact that when he's like, you came alone, she was like, what struck me about this moment is it sounds like the fact that Tiffany showed up alone helped craft Michael's facade on having this hate and this defense. Because, I mean, she knows his profile, she knows his background, she knows his rap sheet, and she's Black, obviously, and she's still showing up alone anyways. And maybe that gave him some sense of relief, believing that perhaps since this person isn't afraid of me and they know all about me and they have every right to be afraid of me, given who they are, maybe I don't have to make this person afraid of me to protect my vulnerability. Maybe just that act alone opened up that portal in his heart, even if it was small, like a dot. But maybe that was something that just brought the guards down to where he was like, there's something different about this person. They don't fear me. So maybe I can let off some tension. Maybe I can ease up my grip of this hate that I feel.
But let me ask you, I want to ask you a serious question, Tiffany.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you believe in me so much? Why did you keep coming back? Why did you want to help me to change? That's not your job. That wasn't your job.
That is my job. That's why I do my job.
Your job is to make sure I'm abiding by all the laws and not messing up, committing crimes and doing my obligations. But you put forth more of an effort than anybody I've had in my life that actually tried to help me. Why? Coming into my house, telling me to get rid of things that I believed in.
Mm-hmm.
Who the heck are you to tell me to do this? Why did I listen to you?
I asked you to do it. I wanted you to be a better person. And that's why I do my job.
But if you would have seen me a year later, I would have spit on you. I don't understand why you took this time. And you encouraged me to change my life.
Mm-hmm.
When other peers of my people didn't, probation officers, parole officers, nobody wanted to help me. Why did you? Why was I your project?
You weren't my project.
No, but it seemed like that because you're there every step of the freaking way, wanting me to continue being better and better, and you push me, you strive. Let's get down all these racist things. Let's get down the flags. Let's get down Hitler. Why don't we put up smiley faces? One of the things we talk about all the time, and it makes me laugh, take down all that negative stuff and start putting up positive stuff. So when you go to bed, you have happy thoughts. And when you wake up, you're gonna see the smiley faces and you're gonna have a positive day. You didn't have to do that. Like I said, I'm a number. I could have been right back, but you made a project. I wouldn't be a good father. I wouldn't have been a good husband. I wouldn't be a man that I am today if it wasn't for your stubbornness. You're willing to push me. I don't get it, but I'm very thankful that day you came to my gate. You opened my eyes to a lot of things. You let me know there is a lot of beauty in this world beyond color, beyond anything. You know, because you showed me more love than I got from my own race, my own culture.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I've ever told you, but I love you. You've helped me. You've changed me.
Wow. Wow. The fact that she did not treat him like a number, like a problem or a task, but she treated Michael like a neighbor, like a friend, like another human being, like completely challenged his internal hate, challenged his self-hate, challenged his racial hate. And she literally showcased the practicality of loving your neighbor. And that isn't just some cliche phrase, and that love is not some theory or mythical matter. Love, like God's love, is a strong, defiant weapon that just can't lose. And I believe God was using this woman on purpose to help Michael. And I do believe it had to be a Black person in order for this encounter to hold up like a stark mirror to this man of his hateful ways and hateful flaws and the way this hate was manipulating his life. Like, hear me out. The very type of person who he hated is showing him love. The very type of person who he would have spit on or who he thought was beneath him because of their skin is the very person who's showing that she cares about his life, despite knowing what he thinks is right and what he thinks is true about people that look like her. As Michael's talking, you can tell he is still in this like grateful disbelief of how all of this happened and occurred. We know in the beginning of the video when he talked about his first Black friend and then losing that friend because his friend's mother didn't want them to play together. And then that obviously bred like a hurt in him. And then Michael chose to make that into this racial hate. But now he's gained a friend who happens to be his probation officer and happens to be Black, and whose consideration for him and his love for him is transcending the racial hate that he has, is transcending his choices and his circumstances. And not only that, but I believe the only way Tiffany could have done this is through the strength of God. I believe God had to give her, and God did, there's not half or theory, God gave her strength to be able to give her heart some muscle to help Michael. And then on the flip side, it actually sounds like Michael, in return, unbeknownst to her, was helping her. Like, who knows what she was going through, that maybe her faith was broken and that God was using this to bring more optimism to her life or more hope to her life or show her a miracle right in front of her eyes. Who knows what was happening there? I just find like this portion of this video just very, something about it seems so unbelievable, but in a good way. And a lot of that has to do with just the fact that this is how God can perform miracles now. Like, I love it.
The things I've did in my past, the people I've hurt.
That's in the past, Michael. You can't.
Listen to me for a second. The children and adults that I've hurt back when I was a child and as an adult. How can somebody love me for that? How can somebody respect me and accept me for the things I've did? That's why I've had all that hate in me. Because who would want me?
God.
This question about when he said, why me to Tiffany, it just reminds me of that story in the Bible of Saul and how Saul was a man who hated Christians. I mean, killed hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of Christians. And God transformed him and gave him a new name, which was Paul. And he became one of God's faithful servants and one of God's faithful followers in Christ. Like God, to me, God is so cool. Like in the Bible, there is an example, a story, or a person that answers our questions about why God would use us, why God will love us. Can God forgive us for this or that? Even like doing something as evil as being a Klansman, can God still love us? The answer is yes, but also it takes like a change of behavior, right? It takes repentance and seeking God and things like that. And also leaving your ego at the door and killing your flesh, like it says in the Bible, whether it's becoming someone that's radicalized or like me, I was an addict and I didn't seek to be an alcoholic, but it happened because I was allowing my ego to lead me down paths that were not aligned with God. I feel like this is a Sunday sermon. Wow, I feel like I'm like giving a little sermon right now. I'm not a theologian. I'm just someone that has encountered God in my own right, which is why I have this tattoo right here, Yahweh. And just fun fact, a lot of people actually ask me about this tattoo. I don't think I've explained it. So this is a tattoo. It's Hebrew and it's Yahweh, which means God. And I got this after my first year of sobriety because I was just like, the fact that I was able to say I was sober for a year, I was like, let me tattoo this moment. So, whenever I look at this, I think of God, but two, I just think of where he's brought me from. And like 8 years later, I'm still sober. So that's why God's my homeboy. Sorry I did that. I apologize. Not sorry that I say he's my friend, but this is just play. All right, let's continue.
Upstairs, you have to believe God has had some strong power, force. I don't know if it's me that had to come into your life to break down those walls, to bring love into your heart. But that's what it is. I honestly believe that.
2 years ago, I would have told you you're a liar. But since I've had time to do things and seeing and being blessed with all the people I've been talking to and meeting, I'm a firm believer of that now. It's just with everything I've been through, I'm actually being at peace with myself. I'm feeling good with myself, and I hate to say it, I got invited to church when my kids were out there, and I felt comfortable and relaxed when I went there. I felt at peace.
These last 5 years, my sense of purpose and faith and with the Lord has grown tremendously. And it's hard for me to understand, fathom, why do I have my clients, not just Michael, but I have a lot of my clients telling me, Tiffany, without you, I wouldn't be where I am. And that's hard for me. I don't understand that. What have I done? But I have the strong belief that the Lord is using me
as a host
for him. Michael, I'm going to tell you how the Lord feels about you. He sees you he saw you as a young boy. And he's seen you grow into a man. He wants you to spread his word of love, acceptance, forgiveness. And you question how you can be forgiven. He forgives no matter how bad our sins are. You have to forgive yourself. I forgive you.
Dang, that music though. Like it's already intense, and then they add that music, and it's done so. This is why, though, it's so important as Christians. Like, I'm talking like real Christians, not like people who utilize God when it's convenient or weaponize God or like the Americanized version of who Jesus is. No, not how we use him in America. I'm talking about like real followers that believe in Jesus Christ. And I'm saying this to me as well. So I'm not preaching to the choir. No, I'm saying this about me too. Like, we have to be willing to be used as vessels, even when it seems like it's an impossible feat, or even if it seems like we don't understand why we're in the circumstance we're in. We think it's not going to go the way we think. Like, what if Tiffany didn't listen to God's direction with Michael? Like, what if she allowed society or what she would feel is normal to do in this situation to deter her from what God was calling her to do? Maybe he would be even worse. Maybe he wouldn't be alive. Who knows what could have happened to Michael? Who knows what could have happened with her and her faith? Who knows? Because it seems like it helped her too. But as amazing as this story is, as this friendship is, this is not an isolated event, gratefully. There's been examples of how people have utilized their love and their friendship to challenge this type of hate in someone or in a group of people. One example involves the late great Congressman John Lewis, an ex-Klansman named Edwin Wilson. And in the era of the civil rights movement, during one of John Lewis's worst attacks, as he attempted to enter a white-only room at the Rock Hill bus terminal, a group of Ku Klux Klanners actually surrounded him and beat him and left him in a pool of his own blood. And then local police officers asked Lewis if he wanted to press charges against this group of men, and he replied no. And in 2013, Lewis was actually talking about this circumstance, and was also talking about the whole point of the nonviolence philosophy during the civil rights movement. And he explained that that movement revealed to them that they were not just fighting against racists and discrimination, but they were actually battling evil within a spiritual confrontation.
But we were trained. When we left to go on the Freedom Ride, we were prepared to die for what we believed in.
In the way I come to understand this as I, again, study you, is the point of all of this role-playing was not just about being practically prepared. And, you know, I suspect that some neuroscientist now in the 21st century probably understands what happens in our brains, somehow what you knew about that moment of eye contact and human connection. But you also understood this to be a spiritual confrontation, first within yourselves and then with the world outside. Is that right?
You're so right. First of all, you have to grow. It's just not something that is natural. You
right.
have to be taught the way of peace, the way of love, the way of nonviolence. And in the religious sense, or in the moral sense, you can say in the bosom of every human being, there is a spark of the divine. So you don't have a right as a human to abuse that spark of the divine in your fellow human being. We, from time to time, would discuss, if you see someone that are attacking you, beating you, spitting on you, you have to think of that person. You know, years ago, that person was an innocent child, innocent little baby. And so what happened? Did something go wrong? Did the environment? Or did someone teach that person to hate, to abuse others? So you're trying to appeal to the goodness of every human being. And you don't give up. You never give up on anyone.
I'm Krista Tippett, and this is On Being. Today in Montgomery, Alabama, with Congressman and civil rights legend John Lewis. On March 7, 1965, John Lewis led a peaceful march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma and was one of the first to be beaten unconscious by police. That day became infamous as Bloody Sunday.
Love is strong. Love is powerful. The movement created what I like to call a nonviolent revolution. It was love at its best. It's one of the highest forms of love. That you beat me, you arrest me, you take me to jail, you almost kill me, but in spite of that, I'm going to still love you. I know Dr. King used to joke sometimes and say things like, just love the hell out of everybody, just love them.
Love the hell out of them, yeah.
And then on this podcast, Lewis was actually talking about how in 2009, he actually met one of the men who beat him up. And actually here I want to put a clip of John Lewis and Edwin Wilson's reconciliation in 2009.
An unlikely reunion for these two men, Congressman John Lewis and Elwin Wilson. They didn't even know the other's identity. They met, if you can call it that, 48 years ago. In very different times, in a blur of angry fists and proud protest. Lewis, then a freedom rider for Dr. King, arrived at the Rock Hill, South Carolina bus depot May 9, 1961, and was pummeled by Wilson, who for years has been working his way toward this moment.
I'm sorry for what happened down there.
Well, it's okay. It's all right. It's almost 48 years ago.
That's right.
Yeah. So remember that day well?
I try to get it out of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever imagine this moment?
I never thought that this would happen. It says something about the power of love, the power of grace, and the power of people to be able to say, I'm sorry.
I feel like I got saved out there.
Going back those 48 years, not easy for either of them.
We tried to enter a so-called white waiting room, and the moment we started through the door, a group of young men attacked us.
You helped beat up Representative Lewis.
Help. I didn't have no help.
It was you. It was all you.
Yeah.
There were so many incidents he now recounts with shame.
I had a black baby doll in the house, and I had a little rope, and I tied it to a limb and let it hang there.
You can see the glee on his face after he hit this man with an egg, fighting to keep blacks out of the local diner. Over the years, he'd revisit the diner, haunted, knowing he'd done wrong. One of his buddies, deeply religious, posed the question that would finally set his soul on a different course.
He said, if you died right now, do you know where you would go? I said, to hell.
And then, as Elwin Wilson watched Barack Obama become president, something shifted in his heart.
Now, I didn't vote for him, but I'm glad he's there. And I've prayed for him.
And so for weeks now, Wilson has been apologizing all around town and then in Washington. The sudden transformation overwhelming to Wilson's son, Christopher.
He was really a hard person to deal with growing up. I always told him that, we're all the same.
And what now?
I want to love people, regardless of what color.
A 5-decade journey from the evil of bigotry to the power of redemption.
We gather because we have chosen hope.
That, as much as any other change in our country, clearly answers the hopes of Dr. King and his followers.
For you to come here today, and it's amazing. Maybe others will come forth, and because there need to be this healing.
Well, just like I said, if one person comes forward and says the same thing I did, this is all worth it.
Good to see you, my friend.
Okay.
Good to see you.
And if you're interested more in this story, I actually wrote a piece on the late great Congressman John Lewis, and it's called Love the Hell Out of Them, the blueprint John Lewis left us. The link will be below. And I go thoroughly into his life and the nonviolent movement and how it was a biblical love and physical practice. And the reason why I want to do this video is because faith is the number one priority in my life. And I'm not a perfect Christian, I'm not a perfect person. And we all fall sometimes, but no matter what, God is the answer to our problems when it comes to the division, when it comes to our divide, when it comes to our polarization. And that is what we need to seek in order for us to get through this, in order for us to really reconcile on all fronts. So if this affected you the way it affected me, I would love to hear it. And I will be coming back with more content, more videos. And I thank you so much for watching this one. Again, subscribe, comment, like, and share with your friends and family. Share with whoever you feel this could help or who would like it. I don't know, everyone, right? So yes, thank you for watching. Peace.